No.
Cause I mean, that's another 13,000 right there, if we ever had to
Yeah.
include some of that.
Yep, yep. We right now meet the criteria like unbelievable, you know, we're like
Yeah.
at $15 per capita, but anyway, I kinda just went really kinda like the park department did. Our tree pruning, we spent $21,375. We pruned a lot of trees, which you guys know where we spent a lot of time on. We spent about 60 to 80 hours, almost 2 weeks on Manor Lab pruning them trees, okay? Our tree planting, we planted around 48 trees this year. That was $4,878 in plantings. Our management, that's the stuff and the time that I put into it and Jan puts into it and different things, equaled $6,846. Our ash tree removal, we spent $24,178. So total was $100,189.39. That's pretty much what the hours and everything that we did for our tree stuff through the whole year. Okay, so it seems like it doesn't have, but you know, there's things that we do every year at the tree. Last year was $142,000. Just to let everybody know, that's because we planted all the extra trees on 3rd, 4th, and 5th with Gibbs, you know, and stuff like that, putting them in all burlap trees and stuff like that. So, just want to give you some numbers, some updates, what we do end up doing here for our tree program and stuff. So, just to let you know. Any questions or anything on Tree City? I won't know until they send it back to the mayor and myself. They send it back here. I think we'll know probably somewhere in March. I think it is, isn't it, Jan? Somewhere around there, for this 21, and then of course we'll have our Arbor Day celebration again. And it was really chilly this year. Tim came and Chuck was there, and so was the mayor and stuff. And under Tree City USA this year, just to let you know, with the COVID, we did not have to have a Arbor Day celebration this year for your guidelines, but we still went ahead and did it. And I put all that information in anyway to the Tree City USA program, but yeah, this year they.
I don't think they were that strict on it at that time.
No, they weren't.
So.
They weren't. And we'll see how the beginning of next year is at Arbor Day time, you know, in April, whatever, with the COVID, and see what they do next year. So, anything else?
Is this a good time for me to bring up the small forestry division that we should be breaking into the city? Out of the park board department.
So, if there's nothing else, we'll move on. So,
our last plug for 2020.
Yeah. Which brings us to the Casson Aquatic Center applications and interviews. I was talking to Dan here when he came in here and that stuff, but basically our interviews are going to be set up here now, coming up here December 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. I will get the letter out next week. Their Christmas break starts December 23rd on a Wednesday and goes through January 3rd. It is kind of a little difficulty to get everybody in. It's gonna, you know, we don't have too many, which leads me to new applications. We have 18 new applications coming in, plus 2 people that worked last year are gonna apply for supervisors, so we're looking at 20 people right now to interview. 3 of them have applied for lifeguards, 15 of them have applied for concession work. For the people that are returning, we have 2 supervisors for sure that are returning. We have 8 lifeguards, and we have 6 concession. My goal is, like I told Dan here, is that I'd like to get, right now we have 36, I'd like to get around that 50 mark. I mean, that's always kind of a good number, and hopefully, I did talk to Josh, and he was gonna send something out to the school here, so just remind some people that, hey, you know, sign up if you haven't already.
I mean,
Send your app in.
it seems like a low number returning, Ronnie. Is that lower than historically?
It normally is, but some of the kids sometimes just kind of space it out. I will get a lot of kids that get the message through the school system and sending it in right away. Sometimes I can say that that's the ones I don't really worry about, because I think we'll get some more back in. I just want to make sure for the kids that want to get a new job, most of them are freshmen in high school. Their mothers have probably already told their kids, hey, get your apps in if you want to work at the pool, you know, or something like that, or they've heard something around town, but
Do you think
I
that
will
there's-
agree with you all to a sense,
Yeah, do
36
you think that
is
there's
small.
any issues from this summer still stemming from any of those, situations they were in?
Yeah, I don't know, that's a
Yeah.
good question, Tim, that's a very good question, you know, but I will have to say, and Jan can kinda say, 36 is kinda low for
Well,
December.
especially lifeguards, only 8, that's really low.
That's low. I mean, we couldn't even run the pool with 8 lifeguards.
No.
I mean, on the concession side, I know we've talked about some ways to kinda mainstream that a little bit, or
Right,
streamline it.
exactly.
You know, so that
Without-
might be helpful too.
Yeah, without more lifeguards, I mean, we're gonna have to have at least 20 to 25 lifeguards to be on
Mhm.
staff, or we're gonna be in a world of hurt for running the pool.
You probably don't know, what was the average age of the lifeguards last year?
Well, first of all, you
Pretty
gotta.
high school, obviously.
Yeah, high school, you know, you gotta be at least, I think it's 15 to be a lifeguard.
Okay.
You gotta be at least 15
So
to take the class.
they all didn't graduate or anything.
No, no. So, Tim makes up a valid point. There were some things that happened up at the pool, you know,
Mhm.
as everybody does know and recall, you know, a tragic thing happened, and I don't know if something like that, or if just some of them have not, reached out and filled their app out.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, hopefully we'll get another 10 in the next 2 weeks.
I hope so.
You know, and if that's the case, and you've got, 18 coming back, and we've got, 15 new ones, I mean, sometimes you gotta get new kids in too.
Yeah.
You know, and they just gotta get trained up, and hopefully this year will be a little more normal year with, the WSI and all that sort of stuff,
Right.
and,
Well, and I think part of it is some of the kids after last year ain't sure they wanna go do it again, I mean.
Right, there
It's
could
just-
be that, you
it's just-
don't know, you don't know. But I do know that normally, since we've opened the pool, we've always had at least close to 60 to 72 that have always worked up there or applied. So we got probably half of the amount of kids right now, that they're, but let's just hope, like Tim says, within the next week or two, that we get some more,
yeah.
and if I have to, you know me, I'll email or I'll call and just make sure that, hey,
I think Jan was gonna go back and get that recertification, she's ready to the senior guard position,
Swim like a rock.
Wait, zero depth, zero depth,
So really, basically, that's kinda what's happening right now as far as applications and interviews, and, the interviews will take place, like I said, they're 15 minutes, I usually go through them, Josh will try to be there as much as he can. I did talk to him, and, he for definitely is coming back for a manager, so that's a good thing. And he'll try to get here as much as he can, during the break that he has. And then we'll try to go through and decide, who will get jobs and who won't and stuff. But with only 6 returning concession and 15, right now I'm gonna hire every 15 or all new ones if I have to, because I'd like to have at least close to 20 concession people anyway, So, that's kinda where it sits right now. Okay, any questions on anything? Okay. 2021 budget update. Thank you to the council, everything got, passed and stuff last Wednesday night. I did not know the levy number, what it ended up being, what was the levy number?
The pool levy increase was 6.39%.
Okay,
Yep.
39%, so I know that was an increase here. I did talk to Nancy, whatever, I wanted to know about our capital improvements, things that I add besides our budget. I know that me and Tim went through the budget, we did some cutting here or there, and I think it really worked out pretty good at the end. As far as our park and our aquatic center and all the other stuff, the cemetery stuff like that. But our CIP plan, basically, our utility tractor is still in there, which we are in need of. It's probably 20 years old, over 20. Right now, we had 30,000 last year, in 2019, and we got 30,000 for 2020, and then we're gonna have 30,000 for 2021. So that'll be our 60,000. Right now, I'm dealing with FEMA, and they had 2 of their peak salesmen that quoted me quotes, give me 2 different quotes, and they both don't work there no more because they didn't do their job right. So I'm dealing now with a lady that's been there at the facility for 10 years, and me and her talked today on the phone, and I went through everything, and we spent about an hour and a half on the phone to get things straightened out. So she's getting me a quote. By the end of this week, I'll have the exact quote that we need for this tractor and that stuff, and I just told her that, we need not to have that Ben gave me a quote of 62,000 something. I said, well, we need to go underneath that. So she goes, well, we'll have to, I said, you need to sharpen your pencil. So I was telling her that, so we'll see how it all comes in, you know, I mean, it is what it is, but I know we go through state contracts on this too, and they only give so much discounts, you know, for state contracting too, but, hopefully it'll come under 60,000, that's what I'm hoping. The basketball hoop, that's gonna be added to the East Diamond Park, the parking lot there. We'll just put a hoop up there, so we'll at least get a court over there, so kids can play some buckets over in the northeast part, you know, in our park. That'll be a nice little addition. And, we do need to repair the outfield fence on North 1, excuse me. We did North 2 last year, North 1 is in desperate need. That's almost close to, I went back and looked, it's almost close, 1998, I think we put the outfield fence in. So it's needed, okay? So hopefully we can get that done. And then, of course, the city, park department will get a new, fleet pickup in the park here, which is already ordered and comes sometime here in June or July or something.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So that's kind of what we did for the CIP money this year, okay? And, so I just wanted to let everybody know, basically, the budget went and.
Future items, Ronnie, I know we talked about maybe doing some kind of a shelter out there at the East Diamond Park too in the future. What are you thinking into 22 then?
Well, that's kind of what we wanna concentrate, I know we talked about it, Tim, and that stuff, and we gotta do something, you know, either, you know, we gotta do a shelter, or we gotta do a playground module or something, you know, or something. You know, I'd like to get them two things done, that's kinda next on our radar, to do
Sure.
something in them parks. Another one radar is another, like a playground module over at the soccer complex, there's a lot of kids that go over there and practice soccer and stuff, and the little kids don't have nothing to do over there while they watch their older brothers and sisters. So there is two areas that do need, some type of facility, picnic shelter, playground, whatever. And, we'll sit down, and by July coming up, we'll have to come up with a plan and put something in there, for one of them parks, you know. Northeast especially, I think, is a big thing, because there is a lot of kids that go up there, they play ball, they even played ball this year with COVID this summer and stuff, you know, and it's just not a ball thing. That's why I'm figuring if I can get that basketball hoop up, kids can play some buckets up there anyway, get something going besides just softball, and then maybe do, like a shelter or playground, so. So any other kind of questions on the budget or anything like that? If you guys need to see everything, I mean, I can definitely, we can get copies and bring it to you next month here in January with the two new people coming on. They may have some questions of everything of how it works, and we could just bring it out and give everybody one. And, if they have any questions, or you have any questions, we can do our explaining of how it all works too. So, okay?
Good.
Winter tree maintenance. This time of year, I know, Tim had touched on that a little bit about doing our tree stuff. We are right now in the process of doing our tree trimming. Hopefully we should be done this week with our tree trimming on Friday. We didn't have very many, we had two major spots from last year we didn't get to that, I know that we'll be doing on Thursday. And then we got probably about 6 other trees or 6 other areas where we need to trim. We didn't have a lot of people calling in for trimming this year because we've really been keeping up on all the trimming part of it. Now, here's the deal. We all know it. If you ever drive down the streets in the summertime and you see all the leaves and all the branches hanging out, we could do a lot of trimming for 5 years. We really could. But with the emerald ash borer, which is really important for us to kind of get these emerald ash borer trees down and eliminated, and getting the older maples that we're still getting calls on, removals are really important to keep a good, tree maintenance going in our community. We are planting trees, which is good, but removals of the older ones are really important, because we don't wanna have a storm come in here, wind damage, and then cause more problems. And thank gosh, and you guys have to admit, we haven't had a lot of trees that went down in storms. So we know that we've had a pretty aggressive, tree maintenance program, and it's been working real well. But, as far as that goes, we will be doing that, once it freezes up, once that ground freezes, then we'll start doing the removals. So we don't cause any more damage to yards, sidewalks, streets, whatever, okay? So that'll be starting up. I did hang cards on the doors, for, I think, 15 homes for having trees in their front yards, for ash trees. And I've gotten, out of the 15, I think I've gotten seven cards back. We just make sure that we let the homeowner know, I will not go into someone's yard and cut an ash tree down without them knowing we're doing it. 'Cause who knows, someone might wanna just say, hey, I'm gonna treat that tree. I wanna spend the money and do it. So I wanna make sure that they know we're just not gonna go in there and butcher some tree down. And I always make sure I work with the homeowner on that. I think that's a good way that the city can say, hey, you know, we're not just going out and taking trees down because we like to. We wanna make sure that people know. So, we'll get that all worked out. But I did make a nice computer program here for the future, 'cause I won't be around. So, I'm working on that. I'm working on that so that the next person comes in, all of our tree plantings, our removals, our trimming list will all be put into a program where they can click on and they can see what we've been doing and what we have to do in the future. I think I got it planned out right now for almost close to 2025. So I think I've got a lot of that done. So, I've been working on that, so it's kind of a nice deal for our tree stuff, okay? So, just to let you know on that. Let's see, any questions on the tree stuff? Okay, besides, forestry department.
I thought I'd wait till January to bring it up.
So I do have one question.
Yes.
Did you mention to him about the one on Fifth Street and 8th Avenue, about that intersection?
Yep, that's getting trimmed
That's
on
one of those?
Thursday. Yep, that's gonna get trimmed on Thursday. We got it set up that we met with the
Homeowner,
Smiths.
okay.
Yeah, and she's
It's
very.
a beautiful maple tree, but.
Oh, it's one of them,
Burgundy,
yeah, it's
Crimson
one of the
Kings or.
Crimson Kings or
Yeah.
like Royal Red Maples. And the thing is that structurally wise, if you start trimming bad, it's really gonna look bad.
I know.
So, Charlie says, you're coming up there on Thursday, we're just not gonna have somebody go up there and trim, you wanna be there to make sure we have the right branches trimmed. So that will take place, and for that, yeah, so just to let you know, good question, yep. Okay, 2021, Casson Aquatic Center discussion programs hours. This is what I kinda wanted to do this month. I apologize, like I said, I was off on COVID stuff last month, but, me and Tim talked, and we don't know, I'm just gonna start out here quick, and then Tim can come in whenever he wants, but we might have to start out next year, there's a possibility, who knows?
Yeah.
Still in the COVID thing, we don't know yet. I feel, and I think Tim feels both, that for sure, we are gonna make sure that we have the family memberships and single memberships no matter what. If we even have to start out with COVID.
Right.
And I think that's a key, number one. We did raise, to let everybody know, went from $5, no matter what, even if it's COVID, we're going to $6. Okay, and you guys voted on all that last month and stuff, which was really good. And I know that you gave a little more vote for more money for the non-residents, which is, I think it's a good thing. The thing that I'm talking about is the hours. That is something there, number one, first of all, with employees, we gotta see how many employees we have, that's an important thing out of the whole deal. And another thing that we gotta look at is that, are we getting beat up, on basically the salary and the wages? Most of our money is going out the door on wages and salary. And that all comes back to hours of operation, because we have to have people covering the pool. Okay, now can we get by with, one less concession person? Possibly. Can we get by with one less maybe you know, possible supervisor on certain times, possibly. But as far as out on the deck, and me and Tim talked about this, we're set in stone on maybe having about 8 to 9 people there, because we gotta have it covered, no matter what.
Isn't there a regulation for that, no?
There is,
For,
okay. State Health Department says we have to have at least 7, okay? But when we start looking at all the areas that we gotta cover, we have to have at least 2 more people. And we went through that big time, in 2014 and 2015, and, we just wanna make sure that, you know, we've had a couple incidents up there,
Mhm.
and thank God that we've had people in place and stuff like that, 'cause it is a big facility, when you have large amounts of
Mhm.
people in there, you can't see everything all the time, so the more eyes we have, the better off we'll be. But I think that thing is one thing that we really can't skip on, number one. Which brings us then back into the hours. Now Stewart, I'm just gonna say an example for Stewartville. Stewartville, whatever, they have an open swim pretty much, from noon until like around 5 o'clock or 5:30. After that, they do all their lessons at night, where just certain lifeguards or certain WSIs come in. They have no concession stand workers working, 'cause it's just doing their lifeguard program. Now, we can shut down the facility as far as the pumps and everything, we don't need any of that running, save money on electrical. They save money on electrical, I'm just saying what they did. Between the labor for concessions and electrical wise, and then having minimal people doing the lessons, you know, they save quite a bit of money doing that, okay. The question is too, is now we look at is 5.5 hours open swim, is that enough hours for kids? I believe it would be, that's a lot of swimming at that time. I'm not saying we have to do this, but it's something out there that, as a board, either now or in the future or something like that, if it gets to be the point where we are continuously losing and losing and losing. I'm not trying to say that a pool should make money all the time, I'm not saying that.
But not lose a ton.
But not lose an extremely amount of money. That's my issue. Now, I'm gonna kinda quit there, I wanna have Tim
Sure.
give you his opinion on what
Yeah,
some of the.
I mean, I think we're just taking, you know, the problem is we're getting beaten on both sides. You know, expenses are going up, you know, every year, with the mandated minimum wage rules, and there's some things we might take a look at with that next year too, with some of the, if we do have a lot of new guards, we could start them on some training wages or things like that too. But realistically, they're not gonna work for us if we don't pay them enough. You know, we're competing against a lot of other businesses. You know, and the same thing is with the, with the hours, you know, we're losing on the expense side and the revenue side too. I mean, I know, like this year, I don't know, we're at $130,000 in losses, and that's a substantial amount of money. You know, if we could cut that down to $50,000 a year or something like that, we know we're not gonna do next year, but in a normal year, we'd like to operate at no less than 50,000 loss, because that's what the taxpayers are subsidizing. We wanna have a pool, you know, and, you know, it is what it is, costs don't go down, but I think that's definitely where Ryan and I came down on it, and, you know, I think the city council is cognizant of it too, so, you know.
One thing, if we switch the lesson times, we just gotta make sure that there's a well enough notice, 'cause a lot of families send their kids to daycare and the daycare takes them there. A lot of
Yeah.
Well, I
families
think that
plan.
you're still planning on doing the
Doing
daycare
one
in the
session
morning.
during the morning.
Okay,
Yep,
'cause that's a
yep.
really.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
We see a lot of interest in that, you're absolutely right.
Okay,
So some
I
kids,
just
people
didn't want you to
think-
say all of a sudden,
Yeah.
lessons are at 5:30 and parents are rushing to get home and rushing to get their kids there, and
Right.
when they've
Mhm.
counted on the daycares,
Yeah.
it's a service for, you know.
Oh, no, I mean,
Okay.
and you know, it's a, we'll
that's
try,
good.
we could try it and see how it goes, and if it goes, if we get a lot of pushback, then, you know, shoot, we can revisit it again. It's
Well, I
just-
wasn't saying we couldn't do it, we just need to give them notice, so
Yeah.
parents
You
ain't
know,
caught
and-
off guard, you know.
And we used to do, you guys probably weren't around, maybe Greg was. But we used to, we'd close the pool for an hour, and then everybody go home and have lunch or supper, which is kind of an idea too. You know, everything we'd shut the pool down at 5 o'clock, and we'd restart it back up at 6 o'clock. And I mentioned this to Tim, and then we would have lessons from 6 to 7, and 7 to 8, that would be the evening thing. during the day, like you said, we still would have the parent-taught hour from 10:30 to 11:30, which is extremely popular. We never could get rid of that. We could have lessons on certain weeks where we need to have lessons, like a group, one session, maybe start out with 2, I don't know how many would wanna sign up, but we still would not get rid of that, like you said. But that goes to show it still would be minimal, personnel,
Mhm.
you know, as far as the lessons. Parent-taught is minimal personnel, okay, we don't have everybody, 9 people out on the deck at the time at parent-taught, you know, we maybe have 4 or 5. Cause all they are is just playing the events, they're not in the big pool, they're not running the slides, they're not doing any of that, you know what I'm saying, they don't go up on the slides. So, we'd really have to break it down, things like what happens during the week, and then what happens during the weekend. Okay, so weekend might be different from the week, okay? We might have the whole pool open from noon till 8 o'clock on the weekend, you know what I'm saying? To give more people that are home during the weekends,
Yep.
the opportunity to be able to swim. I mean, so weekdays might be different compared to weekends. So that's just stuff that I kind of been thinking about and kind of been hearing a little bit, and I know me and Tim have had conversations, and we don't wanna change everything and just bang, this is the way we're gonna do it.
Right.
It could be a slowly thing of what would work best for us.
Well, and to point, your point, Dan, is about advertising. You know, I know Ryan and I have both talked about that. First, we've talked about targeting areas in Rochester to try and, you know, get as many customers from that area as we can. Also, just advertising locally too, because, I mean, we want this to be a used facility. You know, the
Yep.
more people, you know, if we're gonna open it for 50 people, you might as well have 100 people in the pool, because
Yes.
you're paying for all the lifeguards, you're paying for the water, the electricity, you might as well have people using it, and all that, it's just cash off the top for us with volume.
Right.
Yes.
So,
Well, you also have to track your evening swimmers.
Mhm.
Very much so.
You're talking about manipulating the evening, I want the numbers, you know, are we down,
Yes.
you know, 1/4 what you have
Yes.
in the
Josh
daytime?
has got them numbers, and he agreed with me when I talked to him about this, that yes, it does slow down in the evenings.
you know, I think we looked at it, and after 6 PM,
Yes.
it's very low, usually, yeah.
Yep, now you're
And now,
gonna get
weather
your-
dependent too, of course.
Well, yeah,
Right.
that hurt,
And
did help us
you're
last
gonna
year.
get your, what do you call them, the pool rats that wanna just be there no matter what anyway, you know, they're just there to swim all day, you know, whatever. But as far as,
Pool rats.
you know, that's what they, yeah, kinda just a word that they say, I guess, from some of the lifeguards. But anyway, they're the ones that, you know, that's where the numbers don't, now, give or take, if it's a hot, warm, muggy day,
Mhm.
you bet, then our numbers would go up.
If it's cloudy.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and a lot of this, like, we always said, it varies on the weather, we know that, we all know that. But, as far as, the percentage, what you're trying to say, Greg, most of the time, and I'm saying most of the time, the numbers do drop off in the evening.
Okay, so is this something that, we've got 2 pools, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you shut down one pool and only have that as a, let's say, the swimming lessons on one half, and the other can stay active for those that, the pool rats or whatever it is, so you still have a capacity to have the swimmers on an evening, but with less lifeguards. And the other half could be, or either shut it down, nobody's in that half, or temporary swimming lessons.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna look at all these
Split that.
options.
I mean,
you know,
that's
yeah, there's-
kinda where,
we want usage to be there,
Yes,
you
we
know, and
do.
if usage is there, then, I mean, that's where we keep it open. We
Yeah.
found last year, there were a lot of times when you had more guards than you had people in the pool
Yeah.
towards the end of the period, and
Oh,
it's just hard to do that, you know, it's hard for me
And
to see it, like,
and
oh gosh.
I understand the same way at work, you know, when
Sure.
it comes 6:30 at night and I got 3 staff members there, we could send 2 home.
Right.
It just takes that one,
Madness.
5 cars to drive up and go, oh, wish I would've not sent them home type thing, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So I understand it, but,
Yep.
um,
And last year, you know, we had a good idea how many people were gonna be at the pool anyway, 'cause we had the reservation system.
Mhm.
But on a normal good year, we don't have the reservation system, we don't know how many people will come or go or whatever. But it's just, I think that we're just sitting here right now, just thinking that, okay, what can we do? I know, and it may not even happen next year in 21, or this next summer. But if we see that the numbers, like Tim is saying, are really starting not to get to the 80,000 loss, 100,000 loss, we're gonna have to do something.
Right.
And you had some other things you wanted to add here.
Yes.
It was just, and you, I don't know if you know this number or not, okay, so parents are out working all day and they've got family passes and they're gonna come home at night and they're gonna wanna go swimming with the kids, in the evening. Okay, so if you switch the swimming lessons from six to eight, then you're taking away that time away from mom and dad and the kids to go spend an hour or so.
Correct.
Open,
And
you know,
we
just
understand
spend
that,
some time
and
in that.
that's
So
a
that's
very,
just something
that's
to
a
think about.
valid point, that's a valid point, but I think that comes into advertising about this whole.
Well, advertising, and I mean, as Ronnie mentioned too, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, where we're gonna see the bulk of that.
Yep.
We probably will look at, you know, maintaining that open swim.
Yep.
You know, 'cause you're absolutely right, 'cause I mean, I can only imagine, you know, if I was coming home and I'm tired, I just said, hey, let's go for 2 hours quick, if it's a nice day.
Yeah.
Then you know, but
Because you
Friday
could-
night, Saturday night, Sundays, those are the days where we're seeing most of that.
Mhm.
Probably even just really Friday and Saturday, bulk of it.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think that we're very flexible with it. Like I said, there's no perfect option for it, you know, we're still gonna lose money next year. We're just trying to
Right.
slow that down a little
Yes.
bit, you know, because it's hard to
That's a
see
valid-
that.
That's
But
a valid question,
Mhm.
Chuck, that's valid.
Once we get the family passes back, I think that's gonna help.
Yeah, that'll help. I mean, to be honest with you, if we would've had a normal year this year with the weather we had, I think we would've had a tremendous year, because it was,
Beautiful.
it was very warm this summer, it was
Yeah.
long days, people were using it. I mean, we're gonna see, I don't know what the governor's gonna say this spring. You know, I'm hoping that we can just go like 12 to 5 or 12 to 6. We don't have to divide it in halves and have a reservation system and all these other
Right.
rigmaroles, 'cause that was
Yeah.
a huge amount of extra work for lifeguards, huge amount of work for, and you had people that they didn't get to go in, and we always want them to go in. You know, if they come, I wanna go say, yeah, here, give me your $6, go in the pool, you know?
And that might be part of why some of your staff didn't come back too, is 'cause they would get there, and then all of a sudden they'd get sent home, 'cause the weather would change or nobody comes, so then they're like.
Or they get yelled at by somebody because some parent was like, yeah, you know.
Yep, but
I'll
I
take
mean,
it as
some
a
of
bad
it could be,
experience.
you know, we'll never really know, but I'm sure that's part of it, 'cause they get there and then they're like, oh, we don't need you.
Mhm.
Right.
So now they're going back home and they're like,
And like I said, we're just trying to,
Yep.
not trying to change everything, right, just like this. I guess what we're looking at is that, you know, Stewartville did the same thing we did when they first opened. I talked to the gentleman there, not up at the city hall, I just talked to the guy that runs the pool.
Cool.
He said we used to do the same thing, and we were starting to lose some bigger money.
Mhm.
And they decided to do this type of thing, that they would cut down their open swim hours, because that actually cut down on the staff making the money and taking the revenue away from the pool. I mean, you know, but I don't want to all think that, you know, we're only in it for the buck, because we're
Right.
not in it for the buck, because this is still a community pool.
Yep.
We still want people to be there, and we still want to give every opportunity to them.
Mhm.
But losing $130,000, that's out, that is.
It'd be just another excuse to say, well, we're trying to keep your taxes down.
Yeah, yeah, you know, so,
Well, look at some of those numbers, you're relying on a COVID year, so that's
Right, well, as I said, exceptional, this year was exceptionally high.
year.
Yeah.
You know, the year before was better, it wasn't,
Right.
it still was,
So
100,000
some of these-
range.
Are some of these
65, I think we lost
65, well, yeah,
65.
capital not included on that.
So are some of these expenses, the filters and all the equipment that had to be replaced, and is that figured into the loss of these pools?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
Okay, so we've done some repairs that we won't have to worry about repairing for a while.
right.
So, you know, there's always gonna be maintenance.
There's repairs every year though,
There's
that
always,
we don't
but
have
there's always gonna be
planned, so.
maintenance, it's always gonna be, some years gonna be much, much greater, some years gonna be so minimal.
I mean, the biggest loss was on the revenue side this year. That's what really sparks us being so short.
Yep,
You know, I mean, obviously, you're right, there's always expense, but, yeah, I mean, we're gonna tinker with it, and we're not gonna do anything fast, and I think we'll bring it back, and once we have something sort of figured out, we'll bring it to the board and see what you guys think, and, you know, there's nothing finalized yet, but I know that Ronnie's working hard on it, so obviously the jewel here in Casson is the Aquatic Center, we wanna preserve that, so.
yeah, we do, you know, we don't wanna do something traumatic and. we
No,
just,
and
you
I
know,
think we're on the right
plus
path of
right
not
now-
doing that, but
yeah,
it's
right
just a
now,
matter of tweaking a few
we're in a
things.
perfect spot right now with still Rochester closing their pool.
Mhm.
They're gonna get a splash pad, but they're not gonna build a pool, so So, I mean, no one's gonna be able to swim in Rochester. So between Stewartville and us and St. Charles,
I mean, they'll have one pool left, which is smaller than the one in Castleton.
which is Soldier Field.
Yeah, just Soldier Field for a town of
Exactly.
over 100,000 people, so yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
So
That whole
that's-
west side of town should be easy for us to pull.
Yeah, so advertising would be huge, so we wanna get people here, and, you know, we have another great summer, and we could probably have a banner year, we really possibly could this 2021.
Right.
But, we just wanna make sure that you guys know that, you know, down the road, or even maybe this year, there might be some tweaking here or there, possibly, if, when we'll come back to you guys and throw something out there, and Josh is gonna have his, I told him about it, and, he's the one that manages it, he sees the people, he knows quite a bit of it, you know, and his input will help us too, you know, and I think, we just need to look at the big picture and see what happens.
Were the, Stewartville, community, when they first did
Switched
this,
over?
when they switched over, when you talked to them, was there any growth?
You know, I asked him that question, he said, you know, he said in the beginning, you know, that first year was like, people thought, oh, God, you know, I'd sure like to, you know, but once
Mhm.
they got the system in place,
In place.
then it was like clockwork, he said, it just
Yeah.
seemed that everybody was just, you know, it is what it is, you know, this is our
Changes,
pool hours and.
change isn't always good for some
Changes,
people.
You know,
yeah.
and-
What is the minimum wage for the city of Casson for a 15-year-old?
This year, I think it's 11,
10 something.
15 or something like that, or, I mean, that's something I brought up to Ronnie, cause I mean, I think we've been running with the experience wage is over $11 now.
Right,
There's a 15-year-old training wage, there's a under 18-year-old wage that you could potentially use that are legal, and you can use it for 90 days basically, which would be one way you could save cost. The issue is that you run into with lifeguards, especially if they've got their certification, you're not competitive with what the other pools in the area would pay.
No, yeah, once you're certified, you understand there's the importance of the life-saving side of things, but, you know.
I mean, I think for those initial guards, we'll definitely be taking a look at a training wage.
I'm looking at, you know, just a simple crossing guard, they sit there, they read a book, or they just sit in a chair. You know,
Well,
they
they're-
can.
but they're there for a half hour to an hour, and then they go back to concession, so they're not at the
Right.
crossing guard all day.
Well, but at the concessions, it's not a life-saving situation either, so it's a very simple.
Well, right, and we've talked about that too. I mean, that would certainly be for a 15-year-old, you know, this isn't, and I hate to say, it's not intended to be a living wage.
No.
You know, they're doing this for money for themselves, for
Summer.
whatever,
It's just-
which is
and-
fine. And for a job like that, you know, you could look at especially using that youth wage or the training wage for the first summer. Now, if they come back, it is what it is. But we're always gonna have that.
You're always
charge.
gonna have that first summer experience, which is gonna drop some, it's not gonna take thousands of dollars off, but still.
Yeah, and that's one of the things
But
that,
it's still-
and that's one of the things that we're definitely taking a look at, is if we can tinker with it, or, you know, can you use, I know Ron, you had brought up, can you use a non-lifeguard at the top of the slide?
you gotta have a certain age for sure.
Right, you have to have a certain age, but you know, they're not actually diving in the pool, they're not
Right.
swimming,
But you
they're
can
just
do
doing
that.
a thumbs up for somebody.
Yep.
You could have a slightly
Yep.
less experienced or, you know, person for that.
Because
Yep.
last year you did have, there was concession workers at the top slide.
Right,
Yes.
they were utilized at times, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which works.
Which work. So,
Okay.
but we'll come up with something and, you know,
Mhm.
we'll bring it back, and we still got a lot of time here yet, you know, to kind of figure it out or something, but,
Might take years.
yeah, it could. You never know. Anything else on that? Any other questions or anything? Okay. Park board appointments. Park board, last month, I know, that you guys put on, Sarah Hirsch, and, Chris Petrie also is gonna be joining the board. We did add an extra member,
Okay.
that's correct?
Once the council does it.
Yeah, I mean, the council will have authorization, they
Well,
had
nice.
preliminarily approved it at their last meeting, so,
Okay.
yep.
So then that'll all happen, and, and Chuck, you weren't here, but you did say that you were gonna
Mhm.
re-up, and I think that 3 years, is it, Jan?
Yep.
It's a 3-year position, okay, and thank you for doing that, Chuck.
Sure.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yep, appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
So then we'll have our board set, and,
8 members.
yeah, and we'll go from there. And it's probably gonna be good that we got maybe an extra few spots maybe in the other room.
Well, I mean, what we found, I think, when we examined the attendance records, typically it hasn't been an issue, but there are 11 chairs in the new council room, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, sounds good. So just to let everybody know that's what's gonna happen.
Have they been informed that they've got this position?
Nope.
No,
No.
because it hasn't been officially appointed yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, once that gets done with the council, then we should be.
Yeah, Wednesday they have a resolution that they'll be looking at, and I would anticipate their approval, and then, you know, I'll talk with Jan, we can get notices out to both of them.
The mayor just has to make the appointment and we
Well,
want to.
once we pass the resolution, the mayor can appoint both.
Well, right, just to make sure they're notified, though, I'm saying,
Yeah.
we'll get notices out to them, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I
So-
got an email from the mayor when I got it. He
Mhm.
just emailed me that last night at council meeting, I appointed you to the park board meeting.
I don't know if I have their emails, but it's probably on their
Probably on
documentation.
the application, I don't even.
Yeah, we'll definitely be I mean, our plan is to have them here for January.
Yep.
So. And I don't
Where's
know,
the
Ron, you
new
might
council
even.
room?
What's that?
The old parking garage.
We're gonna take you back there after the meeting.
After the meeting.
Okay.
I think, Ronnie, I don't know if you do any orientation with them?
No, we just give them
Really?
what is it called,
The old.
Oath and-
the oath and the way they.
I mean,
go.
I don't know if that'd be a good thing, maybe if you wanna sit down with them and see if they had time to do a quick, you know, just discuss it with them, but it's up to you, whatever you've done in the past, neither one of these people, as far as I know, has already served before.
Right,
So they're gonna be new to the process, and
right,
I just wanna make sure that we bring someone in that's not gonna be disruptive to try and bring them up to speed,
right.
you know, so.
Now you just go, say yes.
Yeah. And I always, maybe I haven't done it here recently, but I used to do it, I always used to say, hey, please give me a call, if you have any
Mhm.
questions on anything on the board, whatever, or what we do, or whatever, and that stuff. I mean, my phone is always there, and email me, and I can answer every question I possibly can, what I do know. And when I don't know, I'll just bring them to you.
Well, I mean, I've even thought of, you know, possibly even trying to do some meetings on site sometime. You know, in the summertime, if the weather's nice, if we can go out to Veterans Park and do a walk around. I mean, as a board, I mean, you may have done it in the past, sure, I'm just saying with two new
Yeah.
members, because they're obviously joining, they're interested, they have something in mind that they wanna find out or they wanna do. I would love to, and I mean, I drove around with you, Ronnie, we've looked at the parks, but I mean, we've got, you know, one thing later on there, we'll be talking about some park planning, but,
Yep.
you know, we'd like to do some long-range planning for where's another park gonna go? We've got Meadowbrook second subdivision up on the northeast side of town, and Wally Minor's property there are likely gonna develop. I mean, I don't know for sure, but Wally seems to be open to it, and that will not take long to develop, and that whole area is gonna need, that's a lot of houses squeezed into a big area that's gonna need some planning,
Mhm.
so.
For your new members, though, maybe it's not, maybe now these new ones, but for the future, we could have a 3-ring binder with some past minutes.
We used to do that,
You know,
They're
they-
all out on the website now.
They are, okay.
For years.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
So maybe we could just have them,
I bet I
Yeah,
got back
website.
longer than that.
I'm sure you do.
maybe you can give them an
Two
alert
notes
saying, hey, this is some of the
original.
minutes, go check them out, just so they can get a.
Well, and even just some recent topics, like here's what we talked about the last year,
Yeah.
so, you know, but,
but
okay.
they can research that, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm just thinking,
Or give me a call, or
Sure.
whatever,
Yeah.
yep.
some
Okay.
people just
so-
like to read and not bother people.
True.
Yeah.
I'm not
True.
that way.
True.
I'd rather bother people.
Oh.
So, anyway, it'll take place, and they'll be here, next month, so that'll be great. Next, we'll go under old business, and I always kind of refer this to Janet, because she's been kind of the one spearheading it. She did email me, and on the grant, the 501c, it's gonna cost $250, correct?
$250, but I did get informed that we could go under someone else's 501c3 if we entered into a legal agreement. So Casson Foundation is not using, that's not existent, but he still has 501c3. So if we could enter in an agreement and use his 501c3, we could apply for some grants through like Rochester Foundation and a few other places that would possibly give us a grant if we had the status. So I found that out. I contacted Rochester Foundation, and he said, I said I have the nonprofit status at the bank, but I don't have that 501c3, and he said, you gotta have it. But then another person told me that we could enter into a legal agreement with somebody that has that 501c3 and use theirs for applying for grants.
Okay.
But then the money could just go into the bank, so they wouldn't be getting the money at all. I mean, it just goes straight to the bank. And any money that would come to my house, it's written out to save the wall, and I have to take to the bank anyway, so.
so that.
That actually brings up a good point about that Casson Foundation, Community Foundation, which I know Dwayne had some involvement in that.
Mhm.
Previously, I still get the letters from the bank, it doesn't have a big balance in it. But that's something where I think the park board might take an idea of maybe even utilizing that as a vehicle. You know, we really don't have it, a lot of towns do have these community foundations, they're related to Smith over in Owatonna, they've got the Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund. And, you know, they kind of have planted these, and Casson doesn't really have that presence anymore, but I know in Blue Earth, they had built their endowment over $1 million, and, you know, it's where they'll take on a project like the wall and say, hey, this will be our project this year, and this is what we'll contribute our taxable net for. I don't know, that is something I thought of Janet, because Janet had emailed me about the city maybe writing out a letter, and we can do that. If somebody donates money, we could say, you know, we're not 501, but it counts the same on your taxes if you donate money to the city.
I
So-
did do that to the one person.
Sure.
One person wanted it, so I said, well, you have to send the money to me, so I know it went, that you're donating,
Mhm.
instead of putting it in the bank, 'cause I don't know who's putting money into the bank at all.
Mhm.
You know, it's just, I see money's put in, that's all I know. So I can't write them out a slip saying, you know, you donated, so.
Yeah, do you know who's actually running the show on that?
On what, the bank?
On the foundation?
Dwayne is.
Is it still just Dwayne?
It says
Still
Dwayne,
is, still.
if you look
Okay.
it up.
Yeah,
So
I know when I talked to him, he said he hasn't really dealt with that for several years, so.
I
think
think
the
at
last
one
thing
time,
they
like
did-
Janet or Rocky was probably on it.
Jana was on it and that stuff, and
Oh.
Dwayne was, and I think the last time that they really had a big thing was when they
The
put
signs.
signs out on the highway.
The highway sign.
They're involved.
I mean, I just think that there is some potential there for a lot of different things that we do here through
Mhm.
Park Board or
Mhm.
even EDA. Some of the small projects, they do beautification
Mhm.
projects like on the highway and stuff where a community foundation, where if somebody wanted to have that write-off, you know, right now with the stock market doing as well as it is, there are folks who are saying, hey, I can do some charitable giving, and
Sure.
you know, that would not be a bad venue to have it done for special projects, kinda like you do with your, you know, our fund where we collaborate with Manorville and the school, you know, sometimes it's nice to have an extra $1,000 for something, you know.
MRA will give us some money, but they are low on funds right now because the bars gotta open up so they get their gambling going again.
Right.
So
Well,
that's
a
not,
good thing. That's
you
good.
know, I did
Mhm.
ask that one.
Mhm.
Do we qualify for city beautification funds for the wall?
City beautification fund.
Isn't there any city, I know my church talked about it and they said, well, the city has some beautification funds and they were gonna apply for it. Larry Burgess
There are
talked about it.
facade grant programs, I know that, they've used the facade grant for a couple different things, the EDA has, and Dan, you're familiar with some of the ones they've done with that, that's mostly like
Yeah, but that's
painting
for
and signage.
painting and signage
It's not
for
really
villages.
for anything like that, but,
Right. But that-
I don't know of anything that's
There's no
necessarily.
beautification program that I know of.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, 'cause that's what they mentioned anyway, so that's why I picked up on that.
That might be a DNR, you know, or
Well, and I mean, they may have been thinking of it as a facade grant, for a lot of businesses, you do your facade, it's gonna be beautification, but
Right.
it's not, that's not exactly what it was intended for, so.
What about the federal rural funding? Have you ever applied for that?
Federal, or through what entity?
I don't know, Senator Sundin told me about that, and he
Okay.
said apply for the federal rural funding and the legacy grant.
Yeah, Legacy, I mean, I've utilized Legacy, and we've talked about that before. I
Right.
don't know which program federal, USDA has a lot of rural programs, most of them are loan programs, but I don't know of anything specific that would apply to this.
Okay.
But it's not to say there isn't, I just don't know.
He gave me somebody else to talk to, and I just haven't done it.
Okay.
But, I will get some more information about some of the grants. He said there's more grants out there you can apply for.
Sure.
But we just need that 501c3. So, do we want to think about applying for it, or do we wanna ask the Casson Foundation if we can?
Well, I mean, if they're not using theirs, but somebody's still filing the paperwork, it would make way more sense to me to try and co-opt that.
Right.
That's what I.
Because it's, that could be useful for a lot of different things.
Mhm.
And they can just, you know, put their monies in different funds. You know, they could
Mhm.
fundraise, help you the parent for one thing or another thing, and I don't know, I mean, it surprised me, because Casson does have that, we're growing, and, you know, there seems like there would be so that's maybe something we can follow up on this year, and see if we can't talk to Dwayne and see where that's at, and, I mean, the trick is you have to have board members, and you have to have people that are willing to actually be on the board. Otherwise, you know, it can't be a going concern. But if that's something we looked at with the park board, maybe that's something we would be interested in doing, I don't know. I appreciate you bringing that up, Janet.
Yeah, things like that.
Sure.
But you're talking about the foundation would still have to have a board,
Mhm.
A separate board?
a separate board?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no reason why your park board could still be your foundation board too.
Gotcha.
But I'm just saying, and you might have more members of that foundation board too, but I'm just saying, like, the problem I think right now, or at least what I was told, is that the interest
Go
kind of
for it.
fizzled out a little bit. And so you got one or two people that, yeah, we were on the board, but we haven't done anything for 5 years, does that still exist anymore?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
So there's not really a board, so they can't really do anything.
Right.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
So you, to be a going, and I don't know who's filing the paperwork either.
Okay.
That'd be something
But if
we'd have to check
We
into.
could go under that 501c and still
And-
have our
and
park. board.
maybe they are
That'd
not.
be great.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
Well, and maybe
they're
not
part.
everybody wants to be on foundation board, but maybe, if we're already gonna have a meeting, you know, if we already have a regular meeting, we can start, we can do a 5-minute foundation board meeting and say, hey, you know, it's brought into session, we're done, you know, and you go into park board. Just an idea. I mean, I don't wanna reinvent the wheel or anything, but
Mhm.
it could be a useful tool in the future,
Mhm.
especially.
Mhm. Good idea.
And you'll have to check with the foundation, maybe they don't even, haven't been filing the paperwork.
Well, that's the thing. We'll have
If
to
they
check
haven't,
on
they
that.
might not have it, they might not exist.
Check with
I mean, it
Dwayne.
sounds like Dwayne or this Janet Noraki would be the two to check with, so.
Otherwise, the other one, that was suggested was the Dodge County History Center.
Mm.
Maybe they would help us out.
Yeah, they probably have the status too, so that wouldn't be a
Yeah,
bad.
they would have the status too, so.
Mhm.
Well, if you wanna check on maybe the historical society or whatever, you
Okay.
know, I can talk to Dwayne tomorrow and maybe call, or even run over to Mr. Rocky's office and just see what they've got cooking on, so. If they've even talked about it, but I mean, I get the mail from them, it comes to the city here,
Yeah.
the bank balance, I think there's $280 in the bank account or something like that, it comes every month.
We get a statement every
So.
month, I know that.
Oh.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Yep,
Mhm.
thanks, Janet, for really all of the work that you're putting into this.
Trying.
Is the funding, for
It's-
cash donations coming in at least?
Yeah, there's a few people, I see, you know, some $100 goes into the bank and stuff, and
Okay.
I go around and empty the boxes and everything, and there's many 20s, but there's been some 5s and stuff lately,
Okay,
and
so it's
so,
still going then. Good.
you know,
Mhm.
some
Good.
places, you find it sit in the back instead of out front where they said I could put it, you know, and it's like, well, then I'm gonna take it if you don't want it,
Right.
you know, I wanna have it someplace where I can put it out,
Sure.
so.
Good, great, thank you.
Mhm.
Which brings us then to the Christmas tree lighting. I was on the 20th November, I was gone. I talked to Tim a little bit about it and that stuff, and, I think we're gonna we wanna kinda really make that more of a bigger
Yeah.
event here for the city of Casson. You know, the park board has always been the one that has spearheaded it, and Janet's been involved, and the park board's been involved to get this going. And Tim I think he has a great idea. I think we need to get more out there and let people know that, hey, this is a annual thing, and it's a big thing, and if it's something that we maybe move a tree down on Main Street or something where more people would come, or maybe have them involved with the city of Casson deal where everybody does things on that certain day on a Saturday, or something where we have that's a symbol of our Christmas for the city of Casson,
Right.
and make more people aware of it.
I mean, I went to the event, and I think a couple of you were probably there too. I think Janet, I know you were there. Greg, it was dark. I couldn't tell who was all even there.
Yeah, that was my brother.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Okay.
It was a
Well, they
little.
did-
I mean, but even though it didn't get a ton of attention, you know, publicity-wise, there was still 20 people there,
At least.
Yeah.
at least.
And
And
that
I
was
just thought to
better than-
myself, and my wife, of course, I brought her, and she said, man, this is like, she said, this is the first time I've ever been to a tree lighting. It's just like a Hallmark movie. And I said, well, not quite, honey. But I mean, I just thought to myself, like,
Music and,
Yeah.
this has a ton of
Yeah.
potential.
But the
The
brass
band,
ensemble.
yeah, the band
and-
had to cancel, of course, because.
But I mean, I just thought, I said, hey, you know, Casson's tree lighting, you get one of the TV stations out of Rochester, you snazz the event up a little bit, you get another, I mean, you could get a ton of people, and like Ronnie said, make it like the start of the Christmas season in Casson.
Mhm.
And you can work with the chamber, you can work with a couple of these other groups, I was like, gosh, if we're gonna do this, let's really do it.
Well,
The TV came the first year we did.
Mhm.
Sure.
and maybe throw it out there to people that come up with a design, who's gonna light it up, you know, make a contest for some of the groups.
Yeah, I mean, I would
that-
even be open to, like, if we kept it at the park, maybe doing more lights. You know,
Yeah.
You could do, it wouldn't just have to be the tree, you could
Right.
throw on the pavilion, you could throw some on the.
You could get some of these groups that would
talked.
light the tree, and some of the group
Yeah.
that would decorate some bushes and
Greg and I talked
make a
about.
nativity scene, you know, get these
Yeah,
different
Light-
groups.
Lights on the,
Right
on
now,
the
you
gazebo.
know, that gazebo should have some crisp white lighting all the way around,
Yeah.
up the poles and around the perimeter.
I mean, this year's weird because it's not snowy, you know, it's
Yep.
green still,
You're right.
and it's, but I just thought to myself, like, gosh, in a year like this, when it's been a kind of depressing year for people, I guarantee you could have gotten the TV over here to do a little softball Christmas tree lighting in Casson, an interview with a couple of residents talking about how they're looking forward. I mean, but that's all good PR for us, and we have a good park. Gosh, I mean, I love to show our stuff off. We do these things, we don't get credit for them. Just like I tell Ronnie, we're building a park shelter, take pictures, let's put it on Facebook, because you just spent $50,000 on a park shelter and you took a week to put it up. Let's get credit for it.
Part of, I think what I see is, you know, we're just lighting a tree.
Mhm.
There's no grand excitement. No, I don't wanna say it's
Yeah,
not.
we have had.
Okay, but,
we've had
you know,
carols.
and yeah, you got some carolers, and you got the
Mhm.
pastor there, and, you know, the brass ensemble from the school, and then you light this tree in this gazebo. But the gazebo's never been lit up.
No, and that would
So
be
you,
nice.
you know, the tree looks nice, the thought's there, but you have such a small community well, it's not even community involvement, business involvement. Now, you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce. Now, first Sunday, or the first weekend in December has always been
Small business
downtown
day.
Christmas.
Right.
Okay, so this would kick that off. Now, if you push this back and have the Friday night lighting on the first weekend in December, and then downtown Christmas, well, that got pushed back because of the COVID, and then the reindeer got pushed back because of the, you know, 1 week, and then we decided to cancel the reindeer because you just didn't need a barrage of parents and kids coming to meet in the area for 3 hours, so. So very unique this year to change, but going back to last year, you're right, you could get some Christmas lights, light up the, West Pavilion. And then you got some lights on the gazebo, and then you have a tree waiting to be lit up. You can light this, as you get further onto the planter, I should say, if that's still gonna be there, circular planter next year, is that gonna be, get some things going on in the park to create the excitement.
Yeah.
Light up
Downtown
the
too.
wall.
You get,
You know,
get
so-
groups that'll
The
wanna
thing is,
that'll donate their time to do it, you get some businesses that might
So it's
donate
gonna take some
funding for the lighting.
planning, but there wasn't any and to me, I was there 2 years ago, I was there this year, I missed it last year.
Last year was light snow, and it was snowing
Yep.
during.
Yep,
It's better.
so it's, it's a tough, anytime you're trying to plan a new event, or even spark a current event, to get the town excitement, like, it's all, like, this is a Hallmark thing. I'm not sure which Hallmark channel she watches, but my wife watches Hallmark, so I have to kind of watch Hallmark.
Yeah.
And I watch the sports during the.
You know,
summer.
I know he's watching those lousy romances, he starts crying a little bit, yeah, okay, all right.
That's why he's got his glasses on now.
Yeah.
Oh, get
His
it off.
wife, blame his wife, yeah.
But I totally agree, but we're missing that flair.
Yeah.
Get the excitement, so we can kind of plan for next year, and we can get the Chamber of Commerce involved, and, Christmas lighting isn't that expensive, because you can buy box lights that are, 60 feet long for $20.
Well, buy it after Christmas and it's all 50% off or more.
There isn't nothing left.
Right, well, that's true too.
No, you gotta buy it right after
So,
Thanksgiving.
but it's, there's a lot more that
Mhm.
the park or the city can do to light the park to create the excitement, and now you.
Light up the aquatic center.
So.
Well, I even thought about, we do the Toys for Tots drive, we do the canned food drives or whatever. If you made that, like, that day when you did it, like, hey, bring your toy down to the pavilion, you draw in a lot more people.
They
And it
forgot.
would be kind of like you said, I'd love to start at like 4:30 and then wait till 5:30 and then light the tree, because you kinda get the build up, you could even have food or something like that, and then you kinda get that idea, and then at 5:30 it's dark enough, that it's kind of cool when it comes
Yep.
on. And then you can catch the 10 o'clock news pretty easily too.
Well, something that you can light up, not just the tree, but light up,
The whole
park shelters first, then the pavilion,
Yep.
and the last final thing would be, now let's light up the tree, so have a little stage.
It's a good thing Charlie
In the
came,
evening.
because the lights were on and we couldn't figure out how to shut them off, and so.
So, obviously, it's gonna take some planning, and it does need
Yeah,
some
I just,
planning.
I thought it was an idea. We
No,
can-
it-
Every year, if we can build it up a little bit,
I knew where to go.
I did try the Toys for Tots one year.
Did ya?
Yeah, I contacted the police chief, and they forgot. so they didn't bring their tote, and somebody did bring their stuff, and they took it back home, cause there was no tote there to put it in.
Right, there's just a lot of
So
these things,
it's
if we
just-
can kinda pull
We
some of
need
them together,
advertising.
stuff that's already happening, we just
Mhm.
gotta put it together, and I think it's got a lot
No,
of
Tim,
potential.
you're in the right ballpark.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Sounds like Tim almost is volunteering his time.
Well, hey,
I
you
was
know,
disappointed
for
in
something like
the-
that, I'd be
the
glad to help out.
picture
I'm
they
sure I
put
could give
in.
Lexi
A
a
little
job too, you know.
picture like
Yeah.
that.
That's what wives are for.
A little
Hallmark
video.
tag.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Here you go, honey,
Maybe
you like
what we
this.
should do
Was-
is,
wasn't
maybe
that-
what I think, maybe what we should do, since
Good
this
time to
would
take
be
a picture of a tree.
an event that's always gonna happen in the
Yep.
park, why don't we plant a ball and burlap pine tree and have it there?
That's not a bad idea either.
And have it someplace in the park.
Right.
where
Close
it's
by the
close,
gazebo.
whatever.
That's what
so
Manorville
that-
used to do.
So that we could just always
Use
use
that
that
one.
tree. So
Same.
when that tree gets too big down the road,
Send it to the state
you
capitol.
know, we
and
could
put
just,
a
you know,
capital tree.
send it off and then we can replant another one. But at least we don't have to worry about a Christmas tree picking it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of the issue this year too. It
Yeah.
was so
Yeah.
early,
Yeah.
we had to go over to Rochester,
Yeah.
and, cause Houston's got it on Friday, but it was
Right.
just too late.
It's too late. So that might be something that, you know, we can order a ball and burlap and get one for maybe 8 foot or 7 foot, 8 foot tall
10
right off
foot,
the bat,
cool big.
10 foot right now for this
Mhm.
next coming year. Find a spot in
Comes out of
front where we
council
wanna
budget.
put it.
Go ahead.
And it's there. And we just take care of it, and that's our pine tree.
I'll add it to the
It's
park
all-
board council budget.
Yeah, it's all,
What do you think?
Yeah.
it's all great ideas, and like I said, I like, you know, how many years is this, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, something like
Number-
that.
So, you know, it hasn't stopped, nobody's quit. It seems like it's getting a little bit less excitement
Mhm.
but this year, let's say, doesn't count for anything for
Yeah.
comments because it's such a weird.
Weird.
This
Nobody
year
wants to
though,
get-
actually, I think it actually gave some hope to some people. That's why there was more people there this year than there has in the past. It was
Well-
people were looking for that little bit of,
We've
Just
had
give me a
that.
reason to get out to
You
their
know.
second home, and now, well, look at people decorating their.
Right,
We drive
everybody's-
up down the
yeah.
streets, we finally got Christmas lights on the outside houses again.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's just like
Great to see.
the Santa Claus through community ed Saturday.
Right, that was a big,
Yeah.
that was
That
a
was
big
over
one.
5 hours,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really
So-
cool though,
but that
Yep.
gave people
Yep.
something to look forward to. And
So,
it's-
yeah.
I gotta give a shout out to Byron, cause when they had their what they call
Burfest.
I was just coming back from Rochester, I had to go to rental depot in Northern Tool to pick up a log splitter. And I came back, I'm like, there's fireworks coming from Byron. I had no idea what that Burfest was
Mm.
going on, I didn't know. And the closer I got, they were right over the top, like, because I thought they must have come from the softball complex.
Mhm.
But it must have been maybe a little further this way, right ahead, like, what do they have going on? And then I got to the intersection, and saw their big tree thing lit up, I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, does that look nice? And Tim, as soon as you mentioned about, you know, some flair, it's like, that mind took me right to what Byron just did.
Oh, sure.
To where, there's nothing reason we can't do that.
Mhm.
Well, you know, we also got trees in the park where we can always throw lights in the park.
Sure, we could throw some lights on some of them.
Some of them trees still have our Christmas tree, but we
Mhm.
could have that park lit.
We've got that
And we
park
got
decorated like
timers,
a
and
Winter Wonderland.
We got all them
Mhm.
electrical outlets at the park.
Lake
I mean,
City
if you
does
really
it.
think
It's
about
very
it, I
pretty.
mean,
Mhm.
all we need is timers.
Well, with the the LED cuts back so much on cost.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy. That's part of the reason you're seeing so many more lights out too, I think. Like, I'll be honest, I'm part of it.
Well, they're becoming affordable now too.
Well, right, yeah, well, that and the LEDs are cheap, right? You can get a pack for $5.99 or $6.99 or
Yeah,
whatever.
right, yeah.
All right.
Just
So,
ideas out there.
well,
Good stuff. No, I appreciate all the feedback, so we'll keep talking about that.
Other than that, does anybody have anything else?
I just had one more thing, Ronnie, that, Ronnie and I did sit down with, the city's planner earlier this week, and we've been talking about it for a while. Just wanna let you know that going forward, we're gonna try and bring some of these subdivisions to the park board, just so you guys can see them. Ronnie mentioned in the past, sometimes the subdivision gets approved by planning and zoning, and we haven't really got the park plan. So we're gonna be doing some of that park planning, especially we know on the southeast side of town, there's some real weaknesses, in the park system. And then potentially as the northwest side develops, there's gonna be some possible weaknesses too. So those are kind of our two new park areas that we're identifying. So just wanna let you know that that's gonna be ongoing, and Ronnie's gotta be here at least 5 more years to make sure that all comes to fruition, so, you know.
Oh, boy.
You didn't say no.
That's right, that's right. We'll just keep raising taxes on social security and we'll be good.
Okay. Other than that, move for adjournment?
When's our next meeting, I'm just looking.
I don't move right.
Oh, let's see, is it seventeenth or something like that? I don't have this year's calendar up.
January
When their next meeting,
19th.
when Jan sends me the.
Yeah, when Jan sends me the notice.
January, what I see is January 19th.
Third Tuesday to January 19th.
Sounds good. So we will plan on meeting.
I'll make that motion. Okay,
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Alright,
Opposed?
of course.
Well,
Okay.
I
If
wasn't
you
done
wanna
talking
check
yet.
out the new
You just
one
finally got me
quick,
going?
And next
I know, that's why we're trying to get you out of here.
come on back and take a